Good evening, Patriots, and welcome to another edition of the Douglas Ducote Show. You got many places to be tonight. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. Thank you very, very much. We have a lot of things to cover tonight, but I'd like to start off by saying if you believe in the power of prayer, please add those across the country that have been affected by this horrible tornado outbreak. Basically, if you were to take a map of America and lay it out on a table and draw you a straight line from El Paso, Texas up to, let's say, Bismarck, North Dakota, everything east of that line had tornado outbreaks. Some places where they've never had tornadoes before, many places where they always have tornadoes, all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. We're talking about probably billions of dollars worth of homes and businesses destroyed, thousands of people injured, homes, hundreds, if not thousands, that are just gone, and many deaths as well. It's been one of the worst outbreaks we've seen in many, many years. So please join me with your thoughts and prayers for all those that have been affected, that they are able to get back on their feet and rebuild and continue on with their life. Happening right now, as I went live, is a disaster about to unfold in New York. A disaster that started back shortly after October 7th, when Hamas attacked Israel. Shortly thereafter, protesters started showing up on college campuses across this country. And it's been growing like a weed, a fungus. And the powers that be that are in charge of America these days are Democrats, and they're doing little to nothing about it. And now people are dying. People are being injured. School campuses have been completely taken over. Jewish people or students are fearing for their lives. Many Jewish people have been killed. Police officers have been injured. It's just the sad part is we didn't have to get where we're at right now. Okay? We've had since October 7th to now April 30th to shut this shit down. And we didn't do it. These liberal college people that are in charge, presidents of these universities, chose not to allow, in many cases, law enforcement to come in and take these little shits out. And instead, want to try peaceful resolution to talk to them and pander to them and see what they could come to some kind of compromise over their demands. I'm sorry. Kids don't get to demand anything. College students don't get to demand anything. If you don't like the way things are run on the college that you attend, go someplace else or get out. And thankfully now, a bunch of these professors and administrators whose jobs are on the line, they're now talking about expelling forever these protesters. Once they can determine exactly who they are, because many of them cover their face because they're a bunch of cowards. Anyhow, in New York at Columbia University, at the campus there, it's really bad. They've taken over some buildings, and literally it's a terrorist organization is what it's become. Anyone who supports Palestine is supporting Hamas, and they're making no bones about it because they're chanting, these Palestinian protesters protesting for Palestine are chanting not only death to Israel, but death to America. And we waited till tonight to do something about it. And now, finally, the powers that be at the university have had enough, something the rest of us have known for years. And the New York PD is about to go in there and kick their little asses. And of course, that's going to be turned into something that it's not. The left is going to scream and holler, oh, how dare you, these poor students. Personally, 6 months ago, the National Guard should have been called in to remove these little fuckers from these campuses. I'm all for peaceful protesting. I fought for those rights for you to protest. But what we've been seeing happen is not peaceful protesting. It is terrorism. Terrorizing Jewish students and now chanting for the death of America and the death of Israel and Israelis. That is no longer protected under our United States Constitution. And it's taken 6 months to freaking do anything about it. That's what happens when you have Democrats in charge of these campuses, in charge of these cities across America where all the violence takes place, in charge of the states, in charge of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Weak leadership that wants to appease everybody. Everybody gets a trophy, participation trophy. And then you end up with the results we have now. No doubt there's going to be injuries tonight. Not only to students or little terrorists, but to cops as well. And it didn't have to get this far. And the other day I called for the FBI and the Department of Justice to stomp out those that are pouring the gasoline on this fire, which is the squad. AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashid Tlaib, Ali Halomar, Bowman. All they're doing is pouring gas on the fire, just like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson when they show up to these BLM things and when the riots are taking place or whatever, just freaking stirring shit up and making it worse. Yet the Department of Justice and the FBI have done absolutely nothing to stop these members of Congress, our Congress, that are terrorist sympathizers. Alihan Omar is on record referring to the Jewish students at Columbia as genocidal, those who support genocide. Fox News, a reporter, tried to call her out on it today, and she shushed them, went, shh, instead of answering the question. Do you regret saying that? No, she's a coward. She's a terrorist herself, as far as I'm concerned. And anyone else that's ever served in the United States military, especially combat veterans, know damn well what's behind Alihan Omar and Rashid Tlaib's mindset. Yet, not a damn thing's being done about it. Not just by the Democrats. Nothing's being done about it by the Republicans either. The last time I checked, the Republicans had the majority of the House of Representatives and the speakership. And what are they doing about it? Speaker Johnson has the ability and the power to convene a session of Congress together and expel them from our Congress. Yet, they're too coward to do a damn thing about it. Instead, they allow this shit to continue and to fester till we get to the point we're at right now, which is actually where we're headed in this country. A damn civil war is about to break out. This November, come election time, it doesn't matter if Donald Trump wins or doesn't win. Shit's going to go south fast. If he wins, God, I hope he does. If he wins, the left is going to go batshit crazy. And if he doesn't, I don't know that the right is going to do the same, but it's going to be fucked up. And you can take that shit to the bank. Let's talk a little bit more about it. A wave of anti-Israel protests that swept U.S. college campuses last week continues to linger as students await consequences for participating in these demonstrations. Dozens of arrests have been made at Columbia, Harvard, Yale, and elsewhere as campus police and law enforcement have been called in to remove the encampments, which violate school policies. Jewish students have said they feel unsafe with protesters chanting slogans condemning as anti-Semitic, such as "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," and "Death to Israel and death to America." New York PD closed off streets around Columbia University as officers in riot gear moved in on the school, where protesters have occupied Hamilton Hall and ongoing anti-Israel demonstrations. The scene comes after New York City Mayor Eric Adams, that wasted piece of shit, warned that outside agitators had co-opted the protesters and warned participants to leave the area immediately. Dozens of protesters took over the building earlier this morning, barricading entrances and unfurling a Palestinian flag from the window. Of course, they've also been burning American flags and Israeli flags. The school promised once they know who they are, they will be expelled from the university. The National Students for Justice in Palestine, meanwhile, tweeted for everyone in New York City in bold lettering, "Come to Columbia right now." Columbia then issued a shelter-in-place alert due to the heightened activity on the campus. Notice warned of non-compliance may result in disciplinary action. Avoid the area until further notice. Tensions escalated between anti-Israeli protesters and New York PD officers outside the City College of New York late Tuesday. Video footage circulating online showed protesters shouting from the walls to the gate, "It is time to escalate," as they rushed a police line outside of an encampment on the school. Others were shouting for officers to release a protester who had been arrested. The scene unfolded as protesters continued the ongoing occupy of a building at Columbia University about a mile down the road. A student at the University of California, Los Angeles, who was wearing a necklace with a Star of David, was seen on video trying to get through a wall of what looked to be masked anti-Israeli protesters before being blocked while security guards stood by and just watched. In an Instagram video posted, the poster El Tivis was seen walking up to the group of masked individuals, one of whom was wearing a Free Palestine sweatshirt. "You guys have closed the entrance. We are UCLL students. I have my ID right here. I'm being blocked from going to school. Not by the security guard, but by you three." Travis said he walked up to a fence area where the security guard was present. "They're making a barrier wall. I'm going this way," he replied, and tried to walk around the people, but they moved in to block him from doing so. New York City Mayor Eric Adams said these agitators, who have no affiliation with Columbia University, which is bullshit, he's a liar. A few of them don't, sure, most of them are actively creating serious public safety issues at these protests. Meanwhile, some of the students involved don't understand what they're even involved in. We urge those and everyone else violating Columbia's order to leave the area and leave the area now. And if you're a parent or a guardian of a student, Please call your child and urge them to leave the area before the situation escalates in any way, Adams said, noting that these individuals have a history of escalating these situations and trying to create chaos. Until you wake up and realize, Mayor Adams, that yes, there are a few agitators in there, probably that came across the border from Palestine that couldn't get in any other way, that are organizing this shit. The majority of them are white liberal college students. We know that because many of them have been interviewed, and they're more than happy to stand in front of a camera and talk shit. He goes on to say they're not here to promote peace or unity or allow a peaceful display of one voice, but they're here to create discord and divisiveness. That is why I'm urging every student and every protester to walk away from the situation, Adams said. Commissioner Edward Cabin said the agitators' tactics are changing in a way that's endangering public safety. No shit. He qualified that protesting is critical to democracy, but the New York PD will never tolerate violence, property damage, or disruption to emergency services. Although that's not true, because you sat back and watched them do it, and because the mayor wouldn't let you go in there and do anything about it, and the university wouldn't let you do anything about it, you let it happen. So don't start talking shit now about what you're going to do. Do it or shut the fuck up. New York PD commissioner, you have an oath that you took. Live up to it or turn in your badge, because you're a disgrace to not only America, but to the men and women that serve under you. He urged parents to be aware of where your children are. Be aware of what they're involved in. If you don't know, reach out to them. The university said that New York PD is asking for the same. I take the situation seriously. You should be taking this situation seriously too, they said. Kevin said that authorities are in constant dialogue with Columbia University officials and are ready to assist when needed. That's the problem right there. Assist when needed. While you're sitting back watching them burn the place down, just like y'all did when riots take place and Democrat mayors tell you to stand down. But have received no formal request to intervene. The officials played a video of individuals donning black bloc attire, breaking into the university's Hamilton Hall, breaking glass, windows, destroying property inside. Dozens of these so-called protesters took over a building at Columbia University in New York earlier today, barricading the entrance and hanging up Palestinian flags everywhere for people to see. The school promised they will be expelled. The takeover occurred nearly 12 hours after Monday's 2 p.m. deadline for the protesters to leave the encampment. Yesterday at 2 p.m. was the deadline. Well, it's way past 24 hours. I don't know, New York PD. Have you had fucking enough? Are you going to not care what the governor says anymore and what the administrators of the schools say anymore? That's what your oath tells you to do. Go in there and remove these little fucks once and for all and arrest every damn one of them. That is what your oath tells you to do. They are chanting death to America, death to Israel. They're injuring, hurting Israeli students. They're destroying property. They are terrorists. They're just going to be worse if they don't be held accountable for their actions. And because people are not held accountable for their actions, Sadly, 4 law enforcement officers have been killed and 4 others were wounded as a man opened fire in a warrant-related gunfight in Charlotte, North Carolina yesterday afternoon. U.S. Marshals Director Ronald Coleman today named U.S. Marshal Thomas M. Weeks Jr., 48, of Mooresville, North Carolina, as the 4th officer to die in the line of duty at about 1:30 p.m. yesterday. Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department officer Joshua Iyer and North Carolina Department of Adult Corrections officer Sam Plauche and William Alden Elliott were also killed. The shooting began when a U.S. Marshal task force attempted to serve a warrant for firearm possession by a convicted felon. During a Monday evening press briefing, authorities said the recipient of the warrant was the only one who initially opened fire. That suspect, who was later identified as 39-year-old Terry Clark Jr., was killed in the shootout, police said. He was also was wanted for 2 counts of felony flee to lure out of Lincoln County, North Carolina, according to Charlotte police. Police believe 2 shooters may have been involved. They said 2 persons of interest that were in the house as well, a 17-year-old and a woman, were taken to a police station for further investigation. We have 2 people of interest at the police station that are being questioned right now, Police Chief Johnny Jennings said during a presser. Now, I'm going to say this only for Alihan Omar, who believes that only white racists take up guns and kill people. This piece of shit, Terry Clark Hughes Jr., is black. We have confirmed that the individual that we were serving the warrant on is the individual who fired the initial shots and was deceased in the front yard at the time of all this. 3 officers from the U.S. Marshal Task Force, 1 deputy, and 2 task force officers were also killed in the shootout. The Charlotte Police Department confirmed that an officer from its department also died from his injuries later Monday evening. A total of 8 law enforcement officers were shot. Former FBI Special Agent Nicole Parker gave a press briefing with Fox News Digital and attendants about the situation. Said these officers on the U.S. Marshal Task Force are the best and brightest and the bravest. Each day when you walk out the door, you understand you may not make it home, she explained. I cannot say it enough. Americans need to back the blue. They aren't making huge sums of money, but their sacrifice are evident and priceless. Parker said violence against law enforcement officers must not be tolerated. We must restore full support, respect, and honor to those who courageously wear the badge every day and fiercely carry out their duties, she said. That being said, if you've been watching this show for a few years, you know damn good and well what I've said about who's responsible for this. The target it's on law enforcement officers' backs. So those of you that are new, that don't know, let me just share it with you, please. Colin Kaepernick. Yeah, the NFL player that started this whole bullshit rage with young adults that looked up to NFL players, that took a knee during the national anthem in protest against the men and women in law enforcement, because he said, as well as other multi-million-dollar NFL players, which also spread to the NBA and other places like even high schools and colleges. He said that the biggest racists on planet Earth were law enforcement officers. And pretty much that every day they wake up wondering, how many black youth can I go out and shoot today that are unarmed? And he painted this picture to the youth that looked up to NFL players as their heroes for taking a knee during the national anthem to protest against police brutality. Are there police officers that do bad things? Oh, you bet your ass there are. And when we find out who they are, they need to be prosecuted and held accountable for their actions. But one or two bad apples every now and then does not make up for the entire law enforcement across this country. Brave men and women that wake up every day and go out and sacrifice their lives to protect and serve. Yet, these freaking idiots in the NFL that started this bullshit also got people involved in Congress. The Black Caucus got involved. Then this whole thing happened with Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. And they started this narrative that wasn't true. But the kids believed it. That this white police officer stopped this innocent young man who was black, who said, "Hands up, please don't shoot, my hands are up." And then the police officer who was white shot him and killed him in cold blood in the back. And they put this story out and the media ran with it and all the black members of Congress got out there and supported it. At the time, Barack Obama was the president. Barack Obama even sent somebody to represent him to Michael Brown's funeral. At the time, the Department of Justice head was Eric Holder, a black man. Loretta Lynch, the head of the Department of Justice, was a black woman. When the investigation was over with, what did we find out? That Michael Brown was a fucking thug, high on drugs, that assaulted the cop and tried to take his gun away to kill him. And not a single member of Congress has ever stepped forward, or any of these NFL players, and said, "We're sorry, we got it wrong." No, that cop's life was fucking ruined forever. He's in hiding for his life. Nobody was held accountable for that. Not Colin Kaepernick. Nope. Other than nobody will hire him in the NFL. Doesn't matter. He's made fucking millions, if not billions, off of this false narrative he's created. Sickening. Democrat Representative Nancy Pelosi snapped during an interview on MSNBC at the host, Democrat, liberal, Katie Thurl, yesterday during an interview for saying that the job market during Trump's presidency was impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, which is something that Pelosi did not want to hear. Said, "I have sympathy and respect for everyone who votes," Pelosi said on the show. "I'm just glad people vote. I know some of them would never, well, always reject those of us who might look different to them in leadership or the rest, and that's that. But there are those who have real, legitimate concerns about immigration, globalization, innovation, and what does that mean for their job and their family's future. And we have to address those concerns. And Joe Biden is doing that," Nancy Pelosi said. Pelosi then went on to credit Biden, arguing that he created 9 million jobs so far in his term in office. And then went on to say that Donald Trump has the worst record of job loss of any president. So we just had to make sure people know that. Well, the liberal Democrat MSNBC host pushed back because what Nancy Pelosi said was there's more context to that. And pushed back by giving context and numbers and said, there was a global pandemic going on called COVID-19. We shut down America. Nobody could go to work. That's That's why Trump had the worst record of job creation. But you forgot that, Nancy. Pelosi paused for a moment and then she snapped. He had the worst record of any president. We've had other concerns in our country. If you want to be apologetic for Donald Trump, that may be your role, but it ain't mine, she said. Thor responded by saying, I don't think that anybody can accuse me of being apologetic for Donald Trump. And she's right. Pelosi talked through the host's response and shut her down in typical liberal Democrat fashion. No, but let me just say, as the Speaker of the House, we put forth $3 trillion bills, $3 trillion bill, $3 trillion of investment in communities and the rest. And that stimulated the economy. Pelosi also rejected the prospect of a second term with Donald Trump, saying, you have to forgive me, I could not subscribe to the fact that he would ever be president of the United States again. I don't know. How is it possible that not only do we elect dumbasses to Congress, but in some places like California, you keep re-electing them to represent you. San Francisco is her district. Have you been to San Francisco recently? Have you seen what a shithole it has become? A once beautiful city has gone to shit. It looks like a third world country. But they keep voting her in. Guess they like living like that, and filth and drugs. A judge has adjourned a January 6 lawsuit against former President Donald Trump until September, virtually guaranteeing that it will not come to trial before the presidential election. Representative Barbara Lee was lead plaintiff in a civil lawsuit taken with several fellow Democrats who said they were impeding in their duties by the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol. The case was taken under an 1871 act that was intended to prevent the KKK from intimidating members of Congress against carrying out their duties. D.C. District Judge Amit Mehta ruled on Monday, yesterday, that immunity-related discovery shall continue until September 11th, 2024. After discovery ends in September, both sides will present their arguments on why Trump does or does not have presidential immunity from the civil lawsuit. Not to be confused with the presidential immunity from criminal lawsuits that the Supreme Court is looking at right now. The former could last several months. Newsweek sought comment from Donald Trump's attorney, who said, if Trump is granted immunity, the case is over. That's it. If not, there's more discovery expected on the facts of the case, and a trial will likely not come to court until after inauguration in January 2025. Trump has consistently said he is seeking delays of the trials, could then apply in federal court to have the case postponed until after he has left office if he gets reelected. On December 4th, 2023, Lee had released a statement in which she said justice is owed to the congressional staff, Capitol support staff, law enforcement, and members of Congress who feared for their lives on January 6, 2021. I look forward to seeing Mr. Trump in court. MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin wrote on X, formerly Twitter, yesterday that a higher court, the Washington, D.C. Circuit, had handed the case back to Judge Mehta after reaffirming that former presidents were entitled to civil immunity for acts even on the other perimeter of their official duties, on the outer perimeter of their official duties. But they, the DC Circuit, held Trump had not yet shown his entitlement to such immunity and would instead have a chance to prove in the lower courts that his alleged actions in the run-up to and on January 6th were taken in his official capacity as president. That option was handed down on December 1st, 2023. And now, at least in the last days of April, Judge Amit Mehta, the district judge, court judge to whom the case has been assigned, has allowed parties to conduct immunity-related discoveries through September 11th, 2024, Rubin wrote. She said this does not bode well with the criminal case against Donald Trump in Washington, D.C., in which he is accused of trying to undermine Joe Biden's win in the 2020 presidential election, which is what the justices of the Supreme Court will be weighing in on here shortly. Trump, the presumed Republican candidate in the 2024 presidential election, was indicted on 4 counts of allegedly working to overthrow the results of the 2020 election in the run-up to the 2021 January 6th incident that took place at the Capitol. Of course, he's denied the charges. It is one of 4 criminal cases that he's currently facing. He has also pleaded not guilty in the other cases, denying any wrongdoing, and has repeatedly said that they form part of a political witch hunt. The election fraud proceedings, which are beyond Tanya Chutkan, also a DC district judge, have been frozen while the Supreme Court considers the presidential immunity issue. Now think about the criminal case before that judge. In a world where the Supreme Court decides there must be further lower court proceedings to determine whether Trump can mount an immunity defense. Can that case be tried before 2025? Increasingly, I think not. And that might be the only win Trump wants or needs, Rubin wrote. We shall see. But if you don't realize what this is all about, then you haven't been paying any attention. I feel the Supreme Court will get it right. They must side with presidential immunity, or what's going to happen in the coming years throughout American history will be a catastrophe. The opposing party of any president will be dragged into court and tried for everything they did, every decision they made. It will open a can of worms that will never stop. And then nobody's going to want to be president of the United States. Just like nobody wants to be a member of Congress or the Senate because of all the bullshit. Although they're more protected than the president would be. I want to share with you a very strong article written by Liz Peek. She is a former partner of a major bracket Wall Street firm, Witham and Company, a former columnist for the Physical Times. She writes for The Hill and contributes on places like Fox News, the New York Sun, and other publications. She said, it's not just polls that suggest President Joe Biden will lose in November. It's also the behavior of the White House. In just the past few weeks, the Biden administration has rolled out over a dozen new incentives, initiatives, and rules, many of them like banning development of Alaska's natural petroleum reserve, likely to impact our country far into the future. It's a startling avalanche of executive activity. She said, call me crazy, but it looks like White House is panicking that its days are numbered. Who can blame them? A few national CNN poll shows Trump leading the president by 6 points, one of the biggest gaps yet. More importantly, Fox News surveys have Trump inching ahead in several critical swing states. Bad polls and unpopular president disrupt protests at home and rising threats around the world, sinking consumer confidence, and resurgent inflation, all signs point to defeat in November. Hence the whirlwind of regulations that Biden is trying to push through, which include the following: new FTC rules that ban non-compliance agreements, a rewrite of Title X, have the Department of Justice file charges of racism against any company that refuses to hire criminals, more federal help on student loans, FTC preventing the merger of luxury good makers, new overtime rules for companies, new regulations detailing airline refunds, new decisions redistricting drill in Alaska National Petroleum Reserve, FTC blocking hospital group mergers, new power plant emission rules, putting a hold and ban on menthol cigarettes, a revamp of school lunch mandates, reducing sugar and salt. The Biden administration appears to be preparing for the worst, pushing through policies that could be overturned at passed later in the year. Congress has 60 days to nix rules by federal agencies with a simple majority. If there's a red wave, Biden adopted that the traditional lame duck session would likely disappear. The Trump administration employed that tool successfully, ditching several policies rolled out late in President Obama's second term. Biden returned the favor when he came into office. Some decisions, like forgiving student loan or not banning menthol cigarettes, which are favored by Black people, are obviously meant to attract targeted voters. Others seem to scratch a progressive itch, like the upending and long-standing employment laws. Voters should wonder, is all of this activism well thought out? The answer is almost surely no. After all, these are the folks that forced Detroit automakers to go all in on electric vehicles, causing them to lose billions of dollars while trying to force Americans to abandon their gas-guzzling SUVs. Consider the FTC, led by the reckless ideologue Linda Khan. Under Khan's guidance, the FCC has clamped down on corporate merger activities. Most recently, the agency sued to block luxury fashion firm Tapestry acquisitions of Capri. Tapestry owns Coach, Stuart Weitzman, and Kate Spade, while Capri owns Varsity, Jim Choo, and Michael Kors labels. Henry Liu, director of the FTC's Bureau of Compliance, claims the deal threatens to deprive consumers of the competition of affordable handbags. Forgive me, but only a man could utter such nonsense. Any woman will tell you that there are a gazillion handbag makers and that they compete mainly on style and image, not price. And frankly, that few of them are very unaffordable. This is one of many examples of the FTC interfering with the normal pursuit of business. Fashion is crinkling. Companies continuously add names and brands to survive. Liu has no idea what he's talking about, but we cannot dismiss this FTC intervention as insignificant. The Biden White House, just like the President Obama, is tackling lacking in business leaders and in common sense. Lynn Khan is a typical progressive Biden appointee who is now compelling an impressive record of overreach and defeat. She failed to prevent Meta from acquiring the virtual reality company Within, failed to keep Microsoft from buying Activision, will probably fail in her effort to keep grocers Albertson and Kroger from combining. She denies that mergers can create efficiency and lower costs for consumers. As an undergraduate, she wrote a paper criticizing Amazon for being as big as they were. If Khan had been in charge, America would not be enjoying the obvious convenience of the world's largest online retailer. It is just that the FTC, which, by the way, is also behind the outrageous and sure to be overturned ban on non-compliance agreements. Consider the new Department of Transportation demands that airlines must immediately refund for delay or canceling flights and reimburse passengers for equipment issues like non-working TVs. Talks about adding headaches to an industry constantly toggling between profits and loss. What the government should be doing is investing in critical air traffic control equipment and infrastructure. Let consumers punish airlines that don't treat them fairly. Some of the White House most enduring and damaging new rules have to do with energy. Biden is desperate to shore up his bona fides with the environmental lobby and is also adding new restrictions on domestic oil and gas development. Consequently, the just banned exploration of a vast swath of Alaska's huge national petroleum reserve, even though the region contains some of the country's most promising prospects, and despite support for drilling from the state's native population. In addition, the president's EPA has recently issued new power plant emission rules that could force the closure of many coal-fired power plants, even as demands for electricity expand. It is also required by 2032 widespread use of carbon captured technology that does not even exist on a large scale. Similar rules adopted by the Obama administration were overturned by the Supreme Court back in 2016. Critics claim executive overreach. The Biden team's approach, which could undermine the nation's energy security, is likely to meet the same fate. These are not sensible policies. There are a wish list and fantasies of progressive White House not likely to pay the price for their damaging meddling. Here's hoping that they will. As a former Democrat, I have shared with you all many, many times about the Democrat Party that I used to belong to, and what the party is today is like night and day. So let me share this with you. Let's talk about yet another Democrat that has come to the realization that the Democrat Party of today is doomed. We're talking about former Democrat turned independent Tulsi Gabbard, representative of Hawaii's 2nd Congressional District from 2013 to 2021 in the United States House of Representatives. She was a candidate for the Democratic presidential nominee back in 2020. Gabbard currently serves as a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army Reserves, where she commands as a civil affairs battalion commander. The following is excerpts from her latest book, For Love of Country, Leave the Democrat Party Behind, which was released today. We have no time to waste. We live in troubled times. Our nation is bitterly divided. Our future as a republic, as a union, appears bleak. The news, the noise, the insanity, the darkness is something many of us want to shut out. There are times when all I want to do is grab my surfboard and paddle out into the ocean, or go for a hike in the mountains and appreciate the peace of Mother Nature. But there's too much at stake in this moment to put our heads in the sand and go about our lives with blinders on, hoping the insanity will fade away. The insanity and threats to our constitutional democracy will not fade away and will only increase unless we stand up and remind those trying to destroy this country that ours is a government of, by, and for the people. I joined the Democrat Party in Hawaii in 2002 because I saw a party that, at the time, appeared to be the party of the people, a party that valued free speech, welcoming all comers into a big tent where the share of diversity, opinions, views on issues was encouraged. It was a party that fought for civil liberties and rights, remembering how neighbors and friends were thrown in Japanese internment camps during World War II, their freedoms taken away in an instant. It was a party inspired by JFK and the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., who showed us what is possible when we as Americans come together. The party I joined over 20 years ago no longer exists today. Which, by the way, I've been telling you right here on this show since its inception is I was born and raised a Democrat. My cousin was Edwin Edwards. He was a Democrat governor in the state of Louisiana, where I was born and raised. It was not until I woke up one day in the late 1980s and realized the Democrat Party was being infiltrated and taken over by far-left liberals, something that I wanted no part of. Then, the more homework I did, the more horrible truths about the Democrat Party came to light, especially surrounding the KKK and racism. I didn't know when I was a Democrat that the KKK was founded by the Democrat Party. I didn't know that the Democrat Party wanted segregation in America. They wanted to keep black people going to one school and whites to another. Black people having to sit in one part of a restaurant and not mingle in the other. A water fountain for black people and a water fountain for white people. I didn't know. I literally didn't realize. I learned it in school, but not to the degree that it actually existed, that it was the Democrat Party that fought tooth and nail to stop Abraham Lincoln from freeing the slaves. It was the Democrat Party that founded Planned Parenthood, which was designed to eliminate the black race by killing off black babies. And then you have all those that say, oh, well, the party's changed. It's not that way anymore. Oh, it switched. And Republicans became the racists, not the Democrats. Really? Well, you look at any city in America today ran by Democrat mayors, and what do you see? Black on black crime as an epidemic. Black youth shooting each other down the streets constantly. Crime, drugs. Hell, most of the places where there's a street named after Martin Luther King Jr. are put in prominent black areas of the town. And today, if you're a white person driving down that street in many of these locations, you'll probably be shot. Because these are areas of town that the Democrats don't fucking care about. They let go to shit. And that's where this fungus grows. It's an epidemic caused by Democrats. If the Democrats actually did switch and cared about the black race, we wouldn't have this problem in every single metropolitan city in this country. Wake up. It is sad. It is pathetic what the Democrat Party has done to African Americans. But yet, where do they mostly vote? Who do they mostly vote for? The people that want to keep them enslaved. Does that make any sense? Look, before the election, I came out and I showed you videos. I told you where you could find them to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Joe Biden was a racist and hated black people. By showing you on YouTube where you can see his speeches, how he felt about black people, how he felt about gay people. Didn't matter. Point is, the Democrat Party that I used to belong to, the JFK era Democrats, that party doesn't exist today. What exists today is a bunch of racist bigots. Party. She goes on to say in her book, I can no longer remain in today's Democrat Party, which is now under the complete control of elitist cabal of warmongers fueled by cowardly wokeness who divide us by racially every issue and stoke anti-white racism, actively work to undermine our God-given freedoms and enshrine in our Constitution, are hostile to people, faith, and spirituality, demonizing the police and protecting criminals at the expense of law-abiding Americans, allow our borders to remain open while claiming they are secure, weaponizing a national security state to go after political opponents, and above all, drag us closer to nuclear war with each passing day. She said, I left the Democrat Party and became an independent for the sake of our country, peace, freedom, and our hope for a prosperous future. I urge you to do the same. As we look to the way ahead and how we will forge our path through the darkness and towards a brighter future for all Americans, the spirit of aloha serves as the torch that will guide us through. What is aloha? While you may be familiar with aloha as a word often used as a greeting, it means so much more than that. The word aloha means to share and refers to the eternal life force within each of us. Aloha recognizes that we are all connected in a spiritual sense as children of God. Knowing this truth inspires how we should relate to each other and how we can come together to defend our God-given freedoms enshrined in the Constitution against those who seek to take them away. While in this book, I detail the reasons I left the Democrat Party and the serious threat the Democrat elite posed to our freedom of democracy in its very moment. I recognize that the challenges we face in our political system in the country are not limited to one party. Politicians from both parties who are more interested in serving their own interests than in serving the needs of the American people have taken control of our country. They will not give up their power without a fight. We live in the greatest country in the world, filled with the potential of us building a brighter future and a more perfect union where every American can live free and peace with opportunity and prosperity. A future where we celebrate free speech and respect each other as children of God and as Americans, even if we disagree on our issue of policies. This is the country our founding fathers envisioned for us, and it is my favorite hope that we come together to remember the foundational principles that connect us Americans. To make that vision a reality, it's up to us, all of us, to make it happen. Will you join me? Question mark, she puts and signs it aloha. Folks, you have many places to be tonight. Chose to be here with me, and for that, I'm forever grateful. Thank you very, very much. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the channel wherever you're watching me, whether you're watching me tonight live on YouTube or Rumble or LinkedIn or X. Let your family and friends know about the program. That's how we spread the news. That's factual. And we get the point out there to those that are going to vote coming up in November about what's really happening and how your vote counts and where it counts. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders and their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families in our country. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless each and every one of you. I'll see you right back here on Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central Time. I hope you will join me then. Until then, God bless you. Be safe. Whatever you're doing, watch your six. We have a lot of things going on in this country right now that are not good, and you need to be prepared at all times. Thank you, and I'll be seeing you on Thursday night. Good night, everyone.